Hello Texans, welcome back to our final episode of Texan Sports Minute for this semester. In this week's episode, we'll be covering the Texan and Texan basketball team's LC openers versus Midwestern State and Cameron, and the volleyball team's season finally came to an end in the semifinals of the NCAA Regional Tournament. Let's start with volleyball. Texans traveled to the Janelle Center in San Angelo, Texas last Thursday as they were selected to participate in the NCAA Regional Tournament. The third-seed Texans started action off against the sixth-seed University of Regis Rangers. In the first two sets, the Texans found themselves at the wrong end of a close matchup as they lost 25-22 in the first and 25-21 in the second. They weren't in a good spot, but were able to come back and rally, get the next three sets to get the win. They would battle in the third set until it was 25-25 all, but the Texans punched in the last 2 points to win the set and keep their tournament hopes alive. The fourth set would end up just like the third. The Texans battled back multiple times in the set to tie things up. The Texans wouldn't hold a good lead until the 19-point mark, where they would outscore the Rangers 6-5 to come away with a 25-23 win to force a fifth set. The last set would be dominated by the Texans early as they jumped out to a 13-8 lead. The Rangers would try to claw their way back, but the Texans would shut the door as they punched out the last 2 points to send the Rangers home early. The semis, unfortunately, would not go the same way for the Texans. Their season would come to an end last Friday at the hands of the second-seed Metro State University Roadrunners. The Texans lost in 4 sets. The first set would go well as they would battle the whole time and ultimately win the initial set 25-20. This would be the only positive of the matchup, unfortunately. The second set would be close. The Texans fell behind early and fought to claw their way back. They would come close to win the set as it was game point 24-22 Roadrunner favor, but the Texans couldn't close it out as the Roadrunners capped the final point. The next 2 sets would go the same way as the Roadrunners would close out the third set 25-17 and the fourth 25-22 to ultimately run away with it and end the Texan season. Even though their season ended, they were extremely successful this year as they ultimately ended with a 27-7 record. The Texans were runners-up in the LC tournament and made it all the way to the semis in the regional tournament. Tarleton's own Haley Roberts was named Ron Len's Division II Player of the Year earlier today. Roberts had a record-breaking season, and the junior still has another year to do it all again. 4 Texans played their last game. Rebecca Schlorf, Abby Mackey, Rebecca Dowenhauer, and Autumn Taylor have given their all to Texan volleyball, and we wish them the best after graduation. On to basketball, the Texans forgot all about their 1-4 stars. They opened up conference play with a 2-game winning streak. They took on rival Midwestern State and Cameron University. In the first matchup, the Texans would find a win to open up LC play against the Mustangs. The Texans went up early and never looked back. They started things off the 15-2 run. They would continue to roll as halfway through the second quarter they would extend their lead to 20. 28-8, the Mustangs would cut the Texans' lead to 12 at halftime. After the Texans scored in the second half, their lead would never fall below 13 as they would come away with a 72-58 victory. The next game wouldn't go as smooth, but they would come back from a 17-point deficit to get the win in overtime. The Texans would face the Cameron Aggies in Wisdom on Saturday and extend their conference winning streak to 2 games. Tarleton and Cameron battled throughout 3 quarters as the Texans faced a 14-point deficit going into the fourth. An early 3 by the Aggies would extend the fourth quarter lead to 17. The Texans wouldn't be intimidated, however, as a 10-point run would cut the Aggie lead to 7 before they battled to eventually tie things up 81-81 to send it into overtime for the first time this season. The Texans didn't take this for granted as they would make Cameron pay. Scoring would be close, but a crucial 3-pointer and defensive charge put Cameron in a spot they couldn't get out of as the Aggies fell 89-90. Under the men's team, the Texans started conference play in the same way as they won both LSC games against the same opponents. The Texans took on Midwestern State Mustangs here in Stephenville. The Texans started things off well against the Mustangs, opening play on a 17-7 run. However, momentum would stop going in the late in the first half, with the Mustangs tying things up 20-20. The Mustangs would continue to roll in halftime with a 3-point lead, 30-27. Things would go from bad to worse in the second half as the Mustangs had a 9-point lead early in the second half. The Texans would battle through as halfway through the second half. The Texans would retake the lead 48-47 and never lose it again until they finally finished things 64-56 to record their first LSC win. Next game, the Texans took on the Cameron Aggies in front of a home crowd. The Aggies jumped out to a 14-3 lead to start things off. It would look bad, but as the beginning of the Texans kicked into high gear, going on a 26-11 run that put Tarleton 4 points ahead at the half. The Texans opened up with a 13-7 run to give them the first double-digit lead of the night. After that, the Texans would run away with it, eventually building a 20-point lead at one point. The Texans would close out strong after they fought off an Aggie comeback to get the 73-60 win. Both basketball teams will make a road trip on Thursday to New Mexico to take on Eastern and Western New Mexico. Well, that's all for this week's episode. Tune in next semester for all the sports your hearts can handle. Signing off is Channing Flatt.